From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Following former Sheriff Joe Arpaio's conviction, a Valley family tells us what this means to them.
The Grand Canyon is one of the top tourist destinations in Arizona, and it carries centuries of history. But we tell you what damages could cost the national park over $100 million.
I'm Tyler Finger here at Sky Harbor. Some planes already grounded once here this summer because of the heat. Why a new study is saying that could happen more often.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Emily Bloom.
And I'm Patricio Espinosa. Thank you for joining us. A dying wish fulfilled. Eva Magos and her husband Daniel were pulled over by Maricopa County Sheriff deputies back in 2009. He became a key witness in the federal case against the agency, but Eva wanted them Sheriff Joe Arpaio to be held personally responsible. Blakely McHugh spoke to Daniel Magos about his wife's passing and the verdict.
Daniel Magos' wife, Eva, passed away from cancer before the verdict came out, but he says he finally feels vindicated on both of their behalves. December 4th, 2009 is a day that Daniel Magos will never forget. It's a day that he and his wife were pulled over, searched, and questioned by MCSO deputies. A day that he calls humiliating.
We both felt intimidated, humiliated, defenseless, and even at a point, worthless.
And the pain of that day didn't stop there.
But it was quite humiliating and traumatic for me, as well as it was for my wife. And, you know, she always talked about it, sometimes praising me, you know, for fighting it.
A year and a half ago, Magos' wife, Eva, passed away from cancer. He writes to her every day and sometimes asks her for signs. He says that days before the ruling, her favorite flowers had bloomed.
Today, I was overwhelmed. Even now, overwhelmed with emotion that finally, it seems like justice is being served.
But the ACLU says there is more to be done. Although Arpaio was found guilty, Steve Kilar says he believes the issues are far greater than this.
Although Arpaio was found guilty yesterday, what we face is still a culture that he created within MCSO that is incredibly problematic, that is filled with bias.
And in a statement from Arpaio's legal team, they said, quote, Joe Arpaio will appeal Judge Susan Bolton's misdemeanor contempt verdict in order to get a trial by jury. Joe Arpaio is in this for the long haul, and he will continue his fight to vindicate himself, to prove his innocence, and to protect the public, end quote. And if the appeal does go through, sentencing for Arpaio is set for October 5th. In the broadcast center, Blakely McHugh, Cronkite News.
The Trans-Canyon Water Distribution Pipeline is the only infrastructure that delivers water to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. But there are some maintenance problems. Cronkite News reporter Holly Bernstein visited the Grand Canyon to learn about some possible solutions.
There are currently 2 proposals to address the purpose of the pipeline, although the Grand Canyon is also taking suggestions from the public. One proposal would replace the old pipeline along its existing route, and the other would install a new water intake system.
This is the ultimate Grand Canyon experience at the Bright Angel.
The Trans-Canyon Water Distribution Pipeline provides water that is the primary drinking source for tourists like Texas residents and frequent visitors Chris and Gina Hutcherson.
One of our favorite things was the full moon up here at the canyon.
The pipeline, which runs approximately 13 miles from the north rim all the way here to the south rim, has broken over 80 times since 2010, according to park officials. Grand Canyon Public Affairs Officer Kirby Lynch-Yadlowski says the aluminum pipeline, which was built in the 1960s, has aged over time, causing the aluminum to wear down.
Those breaks occur for any reasons, including seasonal and weather conditions. So a rock fall can cause a break, the heating and the cooling of the aluminum pipe can cause breaks.
Now, the Grand Canyon is aiming to fix this problem. According to Shedlowski, between $75 and $124 million could be allocated towards fixing the pipeline.
Our funding strategy for that is to use line item construction, so from the congressional budget of line item construction, and then money from our entrance fees.
Shedlowski says it is a multi-year funding strategy, and that like many other parks, the Grand Canyon has a large deferred maintenance backlog, which has built over time. She says they have to look at visitor safety and prioritization of the money they do have, and that the budget is allocated to meet the highest needs for visitors and employee safety, whether by addressing deferred maintenance backlog or addressing cyclic maintenance. For the park, the pipeline is the #1 priority.
But that doesn't mean that we don't work on other priorities and other deferred maintenance while we're still saving and working on the plan to fix and repair the Trans-Canyon pipeline.
The Hutchersons were not affected by the pipeline repairs during their visit and say the park is special to them.
Just coming, sitting where we used to sit 20 years ago and watching the same view that we saw back then, we know that this will continue. This national park will last beyond Earth.
Shedlowski says the earliest they could start construction based on planning is 2019. Holly Bernstein, Cronkite News.
Today, Arizona Congressman Raul Grijalva toured the international pipeline in Nogales that's currently being repaired for a partial break in a sewage line. Grijalva joined the mayor of Nogales and State Representative Rosanna Gabaldon to tour the Nogales Wash. Santa Cruz County officials say the water tested positive for excessive levels of E. coli and that the break was caused by rain pressure. Governor Doug Ducey allocated $200,000 for repair management, and crews are currently working to repair the break. The international pipeline carries untreated water from both sides of Nogales to a treatment plant in Rio Rico.
ADOT is implementing new technology that will allow commercial trucks to bypass security checkpoints in different ports of the entry in the state. The new system will automatically check a truck's weight and registration without having drivers pull over. ADOT says this will help reduce waiting times and will make more time for enforcement and security measures when needed.
This summer's relentless heat forced American Airlines to cancel dozens of flights. Now, a new study is saying it's probably going to continue to happen. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Finger shows us what impact this could have for Sky Harbor Airport.
Right now, when you board a flight here at Phoenix Sky Harbor, you probably don't pay much attention to the temperature outside affecting your flight. But a new study from Columbia University may make you take a glance at the thermometer before heading to the airport. It happened in June.
Had to pick the hottest day to try to fly out of Arizona.
Nearly 50 American Airlines flights canceled at Sky Harbor because of the heat.
We're worried a little bit about the weather. It's at 120 degrees.
In a new study from Columbia University, rising temperatures due to global warming will make it harder for planes around the world to take off in the next few decades. In a FaceTime interview, co-author Radley Horton says Phoenix could be affected.
Our research is really honing in on how what sounds like a small change, the 1 degree of warming to date, for example, globally, has already led to much more frequent heat extremes than what we saw in the past.
Since 1980, average global temperatures have gone up nearly 2 degrees, and it's not stopping there. The study says by 2080, maximum daily temperatures at airports are projected to be 7 to 14 degrees hotter than today. You may ask why a plane would struggle to take off in high temperatures. It's because of a pesky thing called physics. The hotter it is, the thinner the air, making it harder for a plane to get lift, requiring more runway to get into the sky. The study says during the hottest part of the day, airlines may have to remove fuel, cargo, or passengers. Jim Tillman, a former commercial pilot for 29 years, says it's something the airlines are already doing.
It's going to obviously get worse. Every one of these parameters we're talking about becomes much more significant as you see a temperature rise of just a degree or two.
Tillman says passengers don't need to be worried because airlines' #1 concern is safety.
If the airline says we're boarding at gate 6, go to gate 6 and get on the airplane. They've already figured all this out. They know it's going to be safe. They're not going to take any chances.
Here in Phoenix, that could have a huge impact on our hottest days of the year. And as with the flight cancellations in June, it just shows how real of a threat this is. At Phoenix Sky Harbor tonight, Tyler Finger, Cronkite News.
Every summer, students of the ASU Walter Cronkite School of Journalism head abroad to experience journalism in a different light. Right now, our own Cronkite News reporter Tyler Paley is in Israel, where a recent string of terror attacks has community members there calling for more security measures.
Tonight in Israel, emotions ranging from anger to frustration over the recent terrorist attacks that have encapsulated this country. One of them taking place just 10 days ago out on the West Bank. Miri Maod Ovieda is one of the residents in that community.
The fence is not strong enough right now to defend the people of this community, and there's a few weak points which terrorists are taking advantage of, have tried to take advantage over and over again in order to harm the families living within this community. So our first demand and request is security, and we can see positive things that are happening in that direction.
You can see more of that story on our social media platforms on Twitter and Facebook, and be sure to look out for continuing team coverage from Israel as the week goes on. Reporting from Jerusalem tonight, Tyler Paley, Cronkite News.
And in our nation's capital, advocacy groups are sending special gifts as a way to send a message to Congress members.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we tell you why legislators say these gifts do leave a long-lasting impression.
And while cardio is important, running in the Arizona heat might not be the best idea. Coming up, we'll tell you how you can stay fit and safe.
I finally found my hallelujah. I've been waiting for this moment all my life. Now all my dreams are coming true, yeah. I've been waiting for this moment. It's good to be alive right about now. Right about now.
Officially from 36, and he hooks it in. Arizona State wins. Keeping one deep, and it is caught. Jalen Strong. Do you believe
it? Valentine's Day candy has a message. Retirement gifts have a message. But if you wanted to get a message to your elected officials, would you put it on a condom? One group did, but it's hardly the only time congressional offices have received gifts meant to deliver a message. Cronkite News reporter Alex Valdez is in our Washington bureau, and he tells us about these special deliveries.
Yes, boxes like these were sent to every senator's office this summer. Boxes containing packets of condoms, and they also carried a very important message. These may be more colorful than usual, but they're not at all different than any gifts sent to senator's office trying to get a message across to Capitol Hill. When Arizona Senator Jeff Flake's office produced this video to make fun of tax write-offs for alpacas, Flake said the office soon received a t-shirt with an alpaca's picture on the front. Such message-themed trinkets are a standard part of the congressional mailbox.
You know, regular knickknacks, pens, you know, T-shirts, things like that. I think one of the weirdest things we've gotten so far this year has been we had these little chapsticks with little doll heads on them.
As with everything in Congress, there are rules governing such gifts, even for chapstick with doll heads and boxes of condoms. A member or employee of Congress may accept a gift only if it is unsolicited and if that gift is valued less than $50.
The estimated cost of the gift is outside of what we can accept in regards to our ethics rules that govern our offices. But it's only one or two things. We also have the option of purchasing and paying for that gift. The congressman has the opportunity to write a check.
Whether they are returned or kept, bought, or tossed in a drawer, Ewing said the trinkets can make an impression and help deliver a message to Capitol Hill offices.
I do think being exposed to that name and remembering why they came in, why they met with our staff, what their issue was, helps us remember, the stakeholders that are involved in any decision that we make.
We reached out to almost every member of Arizona's congressional delegation to talk about any unusual gifts they may have received. And although no one was willing to talk on camera, we did get some crazy stories. Live in Washington, I'm Alex Valdez, Cronkite News.
Working out in the Arizona heat is a serious health concern for professional athletes.
Coming up on Cronkite News, a former NCAA champion shares her experience and how she tells us she managed to safely train in the heat.
The triple-digit temps have made their return, but will they stick around? Your full 7-day forecast coming up.
Heaven knows you're a dreamer. Don't hide it from anyone. Don't hide it from anyone. Hey, would you believe me if I said we are here for a reason now? This is our life. This is what counts. This is for us. I will go anywhere for you.
And the Phoenix National Weather Service has warned Valley residents to expect some heavy rain and strong winds in the next few days. Emily Bloom has your full forecast and tells us if we could see some storm activity. Emily.
Yeah, Patricio, our atmospheric pressure is already pretty high. Now, a weak weather disturbance is going to be moving in to the region over the next couple of days, adding to the moisture, and that is really going to kick up those chances for monsoon weather. Not all areas will get hit, but for those that will, our biggest threat right now is those isolated heavy rains and strong winds. Now, this is a look out at our skies over the past couple of hours. This is from our Cronkite News Terrace for the past couple of hours here in downtown Phoenix. This is a time-lapse video that we created of our cloudy skies. Now, we are currently sitting at 105 here in downtown Phoenix. That humidity, 31%, so it's still pretty muggy out there. Taking a look across the valley, we have got 90 in Cave Creek, 99 in Whitman, 99 in Levine, ditto in Maricopa, and 96 down in Casa Grande. Now across the state, we are seeing 86 at the Grand Canyon, 108 in Lake Havasu, 92 down in Tucson, and 66 in Show Low. Now taking a look at our satellite radar, we've got those little bit of that storm still moving across the state. That's going to last through today, tomorrow, and into Thursday morning. Then as we head into Friday, this drier air mass is going to be moving in from the west. That is going to bring those chances of the monsoons down just a little bit for our weekend. Despite that, we are still going to be sitting in those triple digits. By Thursday, we are at 102. Friday, we've got 103, and those triple digits will stick around through the weekend. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Emily Bloom.
And training in the heat can have unintended consequences. With more, we go to Cronkite News reporter Danielle Lincecum.
According to the 2016 County Heat Death Report, there were 130 heat-related deaths in Maricopa County last year, with 24 of those occurring in desert trail areas.
ASU 5,000-meter track and field record holder Victoria Jackson knows all about training in the desert heat. She won an NCAA title with the Sun Devils in the 10,000-meter distance and competed as a professional runner.
I was smart. I started early, right? You usually want to start in the 5s. Thought I was okay. I was doing 16 miles on the mountain, was coming down and started like hallucinating. I picked up on some warning signs. I started to develop a headache. I wasn't picking up my feet as well. And so I started like thinking that I saw water bottles stashed out in the desert and was like looking behind cacti to try to find these water bottles that obviously weren't there.
Former ASU head athletic trainer Perry Ettinger, who is now an orthopedic surgery and sports medicine physician's assistant at Phoenix Children's Hospital, said an increase in core body temperature can bring about these kinds of cognitive issues.
The heat in the brain changes the way the brain synapses work, and so you do see hallucinations.
Ettinger explained that the body is primarily cooled by ambient temperature as blood is pumped to the skin's surface. However, when the outside temperature is above 100 degrees, the body has no way to cool down. As your internal temperature rises, a vicious cycle begins of increased respiration, heart rate, and blood viscosity. Your internal organs go into survival mode, and your body is placed under a tremendous amount of stress.
So 9 years ago, I ran what's called the Badwater 135. It's from the lowest point in the continental U.S. to the highest point in the continental U.S. It was a road race of 135 miles. The first 44 miles were across the desert. And if you didn't change your shoes every 5 to 6 miles, then your shoes would melt.
After 23 miles, Ettinger had issues with salt loss and nausea. Those issues subsided and he finished in the top 10 in just over 29 hours. But said he battled the lingering effects of heat-induced brain trauma for years following the race. He suffered excruciating headaches, and it took nearly 3 years for him to be able to run again without vomiting, and took 5 years for him to remember anything after the 23-mile mark.
I feel like if I did it again, the consequences would be much worse. I have nothing scientific to back that, but it was not a very comfortable first 3 years, and it was kind of a nerve-wracking first 5 years.
Both former Olympic trials qualifiers, Ettinger and Jackson, run in the early morning throughout the summer and say that as long as you start early, stay hydrated, and keep your workout to an hour, you should be able to enjoy the outdoors.
Safely acclimating the body to the added stress of heat training can give athletes a leg up. Jackson said her heat training helped her win her NCAA title during a heat wave in 2006. In the Broadcast Center, Danielle Lincecum, Cronkite News.
Student athletes have to juggle academics and their sport.
But one Sun Devil student is making sure she excels in both. Coming up on Cronkite News, we show you how this ASU student is making goals beyond the soccer field.
Fascinating. You know, sometimes I wish I wasn't so beloved.
Can't you see? Little girl got a hold on me like wow. Baby, I'm howling for you.
It's literally one for the history books.
Enjoy.
ASU's very own Madison Stark is the epitome of a student athlete. She earned Pac-12 all-academic honors each of her last 2 soccer seasons and was named winner of the team's Sparky Award. Cronkite News LA reporter Andrea Boyd caught up with Madison while she was in her hometown.
ASU senior Madison Stark carries a 4.0 GPA, is a journalism major who has webcasted for a major Phoenix affiliate, and has aspirations for graduate school. This summer, the soccer standout spent time in Los Angeles playing with Legends FC and the Women's Premier Soccer League.
I get to play against a bunch of other college players that I would play against during the season. So it makes it fun because it's not like you're just wasting your time.
So her experience is something that she brings here. She knows how to win, she knows how to lead, she knows how to compete. And I think when she brings that to the field, it's contagious.
But this senior season at ASU may end up being her last playing organized soccer.
I just think the world's her oyster, and she has so many opportunities, and she just needs to get out there and live and experience, and then she'll find her path.
Her path originally involved journalism. Her chops were on display when she hosted a successful webcast for KASW this past spring.
My junior year, so this past year, I kind of changed my career path, and I decided that maybe journalism wasn't exactly for me. So I decided I wanted to go into law, and so being a professional athlete and going to law school, it's kind of like you have to pick one or the other.
I don't think she's like someone that's gonna, sit behind the desk and kind of take orders from people. I think she'll end up being probably a leader wherever she goes.
And where she goes, she will have followers. In Los Angeles, Andrea Boyd, Cronkite News.
And Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, we'll learn about a new way to help detect wrong-way drivers. And we'll hear from a nonpartisan grassroots group that's focused on climate change issues. That's the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm William Brangham. On the next NewsHour, Arizona Senator Jeff Flake discusses his new book that lays out where he thinks his own Republican Party went wrong. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
And that is for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.